What up, folks? What it do? Hey, welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. This is The Deuce, number 2, and I'm your host, comedian Mike Goodwin, the bow tie comedian minus the bow tie. But it's going down, and I want to thank y'all so much for tuning in to the podcast. Hopefully, you are having a great week. It's the hump day. Get your hump on. Well, I'm sorry. That was a little inappropriate. Don't, if you're married, get your hump on. If you're out here just living a life of singleness, continue to press towards the mark of the high call. All right. So I'm excited, man. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to the first episode. It was a blast. We had a ball, and I'm excited to go on this journey. I recently was on the road again. I just can't wait to get on the road again. I was in Sacramento, California, actually about 40 miles away from Sacramento, El Dorado Hills. In Spanish, El Dorado means the golden. So the Golden Hills of Sacramento. I was at the district church for their Dream Team event, and we had a great time. Saturday night, I did a stand up for the church, well, for the volunteers or for the folks that serve in the ministry. And then the next morning, Sunday service, I did 3 services. So they had an 8:30, a 10 o'clock, and an 11:30. I did 15 minutes at each service. And so we had a great time. Pastor CJ, he was sharing his vision for 2023. So it was a pretty dynamic service. What I really enjoyed, they looked at what they've accomplished over the last 5 years and then what goals that they're aspiring to take on in 2023. And they've done some outstanding and amazing things. There was a few things that stood out to me that Pastor CJ shared that really resonated. One of the things he talked about, he doesn't want to build big buildings. He wants to build big people. And that really resonated. Like, I was like, oh man, that's pretty dope. Want to build big people. The other thing he said, he was talking about how can we invest in others? Like, what can we do to sow seeds into others? Oftentimes, man, we live in a society where we're pretty self-centered. We're pretty inward looking. So I thought it was a very good message to say, hey, how can I take the gifts and the talents and the abilities that God has given me and help other folks along their journey? He talked about having God-sized dreams. That's bold dreams. That's really something that I was like, man, I really have to be deliberate about having God-sized dreams. I be having like Mike Goodwin-sized dreams. And those are good-sized dreams, but that's not like the exceedingly abundantly above all. Like I just be having big, but God-sized dreams, that's like infinite. Those are like tremendously unmeasurable dreams. So I really dug that. And the last thing that stood out to me, he talked about just be a witness. And it's basically share your story. Be a witness, share your story. Do go out and share what God has done for you and how he's blessed you in your life. And I really enjoy California church culture, man. Those folks, they cuss in church. In the South, we typically wait till we get to the parking lot, but not in California, boy. They are very free in their faith. And I had an outstanding time with the folks of district church. I actually have a pen with the tree of life on it. So he talked about at the beginning in his when he shared with the dream team folks, he talked about serving from the tree of life and serving from a place of gratitude, a place of fullness, not serving as though you're trying to get God to love you more or you're trying to make your actions be the thing that God will bless. But no, you're blessed because he loves you and he created you for a purpose. So yeah, I had a great time in El Dorado. El Dorado also is a pretty affluent place. I was doing some research. Their poverty level is like 4%. Wow. That's not like the national average. That's like way lower than national average. That's was tremendous. And I mean, it looked like there was money out there. Like you could just see places and you like, man, these folks got that bag, good. But no, man, I had a great time on the road. Now, being on the road is quite challenging, and I did have a little bit of what would I would say. So when I travel, most times, especially when I go to events and I have to fly, typically I had to rent a car. That's in most cases. I have to rent a car. If the place is pretty close, I'll get an Uber, or someone from the ministry will be able to come and pick me up. But those days of people picking you up from the ministry, those days are few and far between. Folks got stuff to do. They like, hey, rent a car or jump in an Uber. So most times I have to rent a car because, again, it was 40 miles from the city of Sacramento. And my spirits were dashed when I went to find the rental car area, and there was a sign for a shuttle bus. You like, oh, come on, player. That's not how I want to roll, man. I want to get off the flight and get right into a rental car. That's the next mode of transportation I want to get into. Plane, car. That's my desired mode of transportation. I don't want to get in a train, a tram. I want to walk right out of the airport to the rental car place, get in a rental car, and be on my merry way. No, sir. Not in Sacramento. You got to go and wait for that bus, Jack. And I don't think that they were really, that's a priority. The bus driver that took you to the rental car place, I think he had other routes because it took him about 15 minutes. He like, I got time today. And I'm like, man, bro, I got a 40-minute drive, man. Come on, let's get this thing popping. And I had a show that night. Like if I had a show the next day, I'm like, Mr. Bus driver, take your time. Do what you want to do. That's what they told us in the military. I had a drill sergeant used to always say, take your time, private. Just take your time. And he really did not mean take your time. That's the wild thing about the military. He did not mean that. I don't know why he said it all the time. Drill Sergeant Richie from Sugar Land, Texas. I'll never forget that, man. It's probably been 30 years since I've been in base training. And I remember, take your time, private. And that's exactly what my man was doing on the shuttle bus. He was taking his ever loving time. But got on the bus, on the shuttle. And actually, when I made it over to the rental car place, there wasn't a lot of people written from the place I was written from. So I went right up, got my vehicle. But then I got to the vehicle and somebody had like Jimmy rigged the license. So it was kind of hanging off. And my man was like, yeah, I can't give you this vehicle. We got to find another vehicle. I was like, hey, man, we can just get another twist tie and put it on there. And he's like, nah, bro, we got to get you another vehicle. So, again, shout out to the folks at District Church. Had a wonderful time, and I'm excited. Would love to be back. I think I'll be back in the future at some point. So that's what we're doing. So now, let's transition to the What You're Not Gonna Do part of the podcast. Welcome to the What You're Not Gonna Do part of the podcast. You know, that's my signature phrase. My mother said that my entire life. What you're not gonna do is basically taking 5 words and put them together. What you not gonna do. Those are the 5 words, you mash them together. And basically, that's just informing you that, hey, that's probably not the best course of action. When somebody says what you're not going to do, they say, hey, you might want to revisit what you're planning on doing. That's a basic layman's understanding, translation of what you're not going to do. But it rolls off your tongue. If you're a teacher, if you're a parent, it just rolls off like your child is putting their finger in the leg. Hey, what you're not going to do is put your little nubby fingers inside the electrical socket. You know, you should just say it. What you're not going to do, you know, is leave your socks on the floor. I think my wife, she hadn't said that to me, but her facial expression has said that quite a few times. But again, I always hear and see stories that I'm pretty excited about. I wish somebody would have got to the person before the story became a story, and they probably wouldn't have done it. Like if somebody was like, "Hey man, what you're not gonna do is," and then they would have been like, "Oh yeah, you're right." Like I don't know if y'all big NFL fans. Again, I always say I'm not a football fan, but it's omnipresent. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. You can't get away from football. And I saw the receiver, Devontae Adams, man. I think he played for the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, they keep moving cities. I don't know where I don't even know where these teams are located now. They used to be in Oakland. Now they in I don't know. I don't know. I can't keep up. But I think he played for the Packers, and then I think he went to the Raiders, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I'm not Stephen A. Smith. But they lost the game, and he pushed the reporter down, man. Bro, what you're not gonna do is put your hands on people at your job. Didn't we talk about this already with Draymond Green? Now we got Devontae. These boys with these D names, they need to keep their hands to themselves, man. Cut it out. Who's next? Huh? The White Howard? Where you go? The White ain't even in the league. He gonna do something. He gonna put his hand on somebody. Huh? Damian Lillard, is he gonna be the one next to put his hands on people? Devontae Adams pushed the reporter. And I know as the reporter was falling, in his mind, he was saying, "I'm rich." Like I just knew, like as soon as he felt himself, "I'm rich." You will be hearing from my attorneys, baby. No more taking pictures for me at NFL games, baby. Oh my gosh. That is instant litigation. This man is taking click, click, and now I'm falling backwards by an NFL player push. That's a big push. Like if Mike Goodwin push you, that's just like a regular comedian push. That's not gonna invoke any injury. And my bag is not as big as Devontae Adams' bag. My bag is a little smaller bag. Devontae Adams' bag way, way out here. Mike Goodwin bag. And I'm not even gonna push you with two hands. I might push your shoulder like that. You know, that's gonna cause you to stumble. He puts that man on the ground, dog. That's like humiliating. Like, but you know what heals humiliation? Checks. Direct deposit. Income, passive income. Only thing you did was just having to be taking pictures, and now you getting checks. Did he wake up that morning and say, "Man, this is the last day I'm probably going to work"? He didn't say that. He was like, "Hey, man, dog, it's gonna be a long night. I gotta go to the night game." I think it was at night. You shouldn't be pushing people that have cameras. Like, keep your hands to yourself. I don't know how many times we gotta say this. What you're not gonna do is put your hands on people. So that's Devontae Adams. Let's see what's going on in the national news front. I saw some stories that I found to be very interesting. In Jackson, Michigan, prosecutors raised concerns Wednesday about a female juror who apparently has been smiling at one of the three men on trial in connection with a plot to kidnap the governor, Gretchen Whitmire. Hey, what you're not going to do is be making googly eyes at the folks on trial. That's just not, that's going to get you excused from jury duty. So maybe this woman's a genius. Maybe she's figured out, I don't want to do this, man. I don't want to sit in these long hearings, these proceedings. I got stuff to do, man. I got Zoom calls I need to be on. I have to go and pick up dry cleaning, go get my kids from school. Maybe if I just smile at the folks on trial, they'll send me home. And especially if you picking one out of the three. If you smile at all three, they'd be confused. Like, well, she probably is favorable to the, but one, like, we gotta get out of here, man. She gotta go. So what you're not gonna do is be on jury duty in Jackson, Mississippi, smile at Mississippi. Jackson, Michigan. That's interesting too. There's some cities that just are more popular. I know Jackson, Mississippi off the top of my head. I'm not familiar with Jackson, Michigan, Somersworth. An ATM was stolen from outside of the Service Credit Union on Penny Lane early Friday morning. The police captain, John Sunderland, said that the credit union's burglary alarms were triggered around 3:04 a.m. and add surveillance footage shows a standalone 24-hour drive-through ATM was removed with a pickup truck. Why, people? Why are we stealing ATM? Is money inside of actual ATMs? There's some money in there. I wonder how much money. That should have been something I took a look at. You know what's a better way to get money than stealing ATMs? Get a job and go to work. That's a good thing to do. What you're not gonna do is steal ATMs. What's the average amount? Up to 200,000. Okay. So it's not a one-person job, I would suspect. I would suspect there's probably two people that's taking this ATM. And let's say there's 200,000 in it. So we split this and we get 100,000 each. So that means you're going to have to steal an ATM every year. Unless you're going to keep your regular job. And then what do you do with the ATM parts after you've stolen them? Where do they go? Chop shop. Do you just drop it off on the side of the road like a stolen car? People are very inventive and imaginative. I don't know if that's a real word, but have great use of their imagination for criminal activity, bro. Like, what if you took that? I think that word is sublimate. I think that's what that is. If you take negative energy and move it into a positive, you're sublimating your. If I'm not mistaken, I'm the word guy. I like words. But yeah, that's what you're not gonna do, folks. That is interesting. I thought the fact that we are stealing ATMs at 3:00 in the morning. But when will you steal? What's a good time to steal an ATM? I think 3 a.m. is probably the best time. That's the time to get it done. So I'm not mad at the time. I'm mad that y'all stole a whole ATM. And I'm glad that the paper didn't say ATM machine, because that's what the M in ATM stands for. You often hear people say the ATM machine, but it's just the ATM. So that's what we got going on out here in the earth. So what you're not gonna do is be one of these folks that have all this energy and imagination and creativity for criminal activity, man. Let's just get some employment. Let's do some entrepreneurial endeavors. You probably can sell really strong chains. Like if you like, hey man, you know how these are ATM stealing chains right here. Like you can produce the type of chains that, hey, these chains will move a car. They'll move an ATM. You need to invest in our product. But yeah, that's it. So today's episode, the best advice that I want to share today is no is a complete sentence. It's okay to say no. It's appropriate to say no, but for whatever reason, I've found in my life that the older I am, the more difficult it is to tell people no. And then not only do I feel like it's difficult to say no, I also want to give a reason for the no. And I'm here to tell you that no is a complete sentence. It's okay to say no. There's something called autophobia. Autophobia is simply the fear of being alone. And I think a lot of times when folks say no, they think people are going to abandon them. They're going to not be there for them and not support them. I think another reason that people don't want to say no is that they avoid conflict. They want to avoid confrontation and conflict. And I was raised by a man who was the king of conflict. So, similar to Bane, when people talk about, I was raised in conflict. You merely adopted it. That's how I feel about conflict. My father, and I'll be talking about my father a lot because he was, my dad, and I spent a lot of time under his dictatorship. I mean, tutelage. And so I'm telling you, I was maybe about, I know I was a teenager, so I had to have been 14, 15. My dad called me in his room now. So what you understand about my dad is, I can't get away from Handmaid's Tale because it's such a wild show, but similar to when the commanders would call the handmaidens into their office. It's a solemn time, like it's something of is not good. It's not going to be a pleasant scenario. So that's what my dad would do. Every now and then he would bring you into his room and sit you down on the bed, and you'd be like, oh man, this is about to be an issue. So my dad brought me in the room one day, sat me on his bed, and he said, son, my job in life is to tell you no. I said, what? Excuse me? Yeah, my dad was like, hey, I'm in your life so that you can hear no. I'm going to tell you no. That's my purpose. That's my life's mission is to tell you no. I was like, and what can you say? You're a teenager. My dad was very intimidating figure. He's very, very, very hulking kind of guy. He was a blue collar worker, worked at a sand factory company, hard hat, work boots kind of guy. And he said his job was to tell me no. And so I was raised in conflict. I was born in it. In fact, when I got married, I don't remember what year this was. At some point early in our marriage, my wife said to me, you say no real easy. Like you don't have any issue saying no. I'm like, no, I don't. No. Nope, we're not buying that. We're not doing that. We're not going there. I said, man, I was raised in this. My father groomed me under the no mandate. No means no. Matter of fact, hey, y'all got kids in the car. This is gonna be a moment. But my father, so if you have kids, this is a simple thing that you might want to pause. But my father didn't talk to me much about women at all. Like we didn't have the birds and the bees. So we did have a talk one time. My father saw I was interested in this little young lady up the street. I spent a lot of time over there, and I guess this was his equivalent to the sex talk. My father again called me into his room, sat me on the bed, said, "Hey, I see you. Spent a lot of time with the young lady up the street." I was like, "Yes, sir." He said, "Do you like her?" I said, "Yeah, I like her." He said, "Okay." He said, "Don't take anything that doesn't belong to you." That was all my father ever told me about dealings with women, with people in the opposite sex. My father said, "Don't take anything that doesn't belong to you." I understood in some type of way what he meant, and that really wasn't poor advice. That was very good advice. Even though I don't take things from people. I ask. I don't know how to take her. I'm a ace. Can I? I would like to, if you don't mind. I know you got it on you. But yeah, so that's my dad, man. So no is a complete sentence, folks. And it's appropriate to tell people no. Like you should practice it. It's okay to say no when you really can do it. Like it's appropriate to say no. It's appropriate to set boundaries. It's appropriate to value your time and your energy. And I think that's very difficult for folks, especially as we navigate with relationships and in business. My sister says this all the time to me, and I think this also adds into my ability to say no. She says, I don't have FOMO. I'm like, you have no FOMO. Like, I have no fear of missing out because I realize I'm going to miss out. Like, I'm not going to be able to do everything. My first and the military, and I'll talk a lot about this as we go on, but the military like imprinted itself, like a big part of my identity happened with my 4 years I spent in active duty right after high school. Like that really probably shaped me as much as anything else had in my life. And I remember missing Thanksgiving for the first time when I was in basic. And up until that point, I never missed any family gatherings. I'd always been with my family and holidays. And in basic, you know, you don't go home. Like, you go home when you done. You don't go home. I think maybe there may be some folks that go home for Christmas and may have to come back, but we graduated right around the middle part of December. So I went home for Christmas that particular year, and then I was on to Korea. But I remember missing that Thanksgiving. Then I missed the following Thanksgiving because I was in Korea. And then I think at that point I lost my ability to say, oh, I'm supposed to be like, I can't go home. Like, there's some things that you aren't going to be able to do. Like, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that really made an imprint on me. And so I know I'm gonna miss things. Like, that's just what it is. My wife and I, I have a business where I'm doing comedy. She does a lot with Gabby Bowes and my daughter. And so in our life, especially our church, folks would invite us to things. They'd be like, hey, we're having a gathering at the house on Friday night. Want y'all to come over. And so we would not be able to because either I was out of town, my wife was out of town. And after a while, if you keep telling people no, they stop inviting you. And you're going to miss out. And you're going to look on Facebook and you're going to see the beautiful pictures of people having a great time. And so I've internalized this, like, I'm not going to be able to make everything and I'm not going to be able to do everything. So it's okay. It's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence. And the thing that I've realized recently is you saying no gives someone else an opportunity to hear yes. So my no will allow someone else to hear a yes. My daughter says this, she has a keynote that she does, and she says, no means next opportunity. And I think that oftentimes we look at no like it's a negative thing. And I think you hear however many no's before you hear a yes. So let's say, for instance, there's 10 no's before you hear a yes. I'm like, let's get through these no's. Let's go and get the no's so that we can hear the yes. And I think that if we had that type of posture to hearing no and saying no, because it doesn't feel good. When you ask somebody a question, people say, what's the worst they could do is say no. Well, yeah, nobody want to hear no. I don't want to hear no. I want to hear yes. That's why I'm not asking the question to hear no. And so it's appropriate. It's fine. It's okay to feel confident in saying no. And, I'm learning that lesson continuously. There are folks that I've worked with that booked me in the past. And now 10 years later, they appear and like, hey, man, we want to come get you to do the thing. But we want the thing that we did 7 years ago price. You got the 7 years ago price because, that was a nice price, man. You came, you was knockout, funny, everybody had a good time. But that price, though. And I'm like, that price is expired. Yeah, right. We not doing that price no more. And so, in fact, I just got a message from the guy that books me today. A woman wanted me to come and do an event. And she said, she had asked for me to come do an event, maybe in 19, and she presented a particular price. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be able to do it. So she said to the guy, well, since he didn't win America's Got Talent, I thought his price would be less. He was like, what? No, no, no.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
That's just, that made no sense to me. Like, I thought since he didn't win it, he would have brought them prices down. I was like, no, not gonna be able to do it. And so no is appropriate. It's appropriate to say no. Even as believers, I think sometimes we have this kind of guilt around saying no and not being available. I think a lot of times folks will say, whatever you do, do it as unto the Lord. And I'm like, well, the Lord ain't got to go pick his kids up from school today. I can't do it. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. That's the point that I think that is important to realize. It's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence. So that's the best advice the best advice ever. That's the best advice ever for the day. No is a complete sentence. So feel comfortable that you set priorities, you think about things, and you have, people off, and you say no a lot of ways. Like there's like, I'm sorry, unfortunately, I'm unavailable. You say no by saying, that just isn't in the budget. People, the no I hate to hear is we went another direction. That's not the no. No, you didn't. You went the comedy direction. You didn't choose me. That's what you're doing. we went another direction. It's not like you went and got a band. It wasn't like you say, hey man, we was gonna have a banquet, but now we having a concert. You didn't go another direction. You got another artist. If you went and got another comedian and you didn't get me, you didn't go another direction. You went the comedy direction. You didn't book me. So that's a no. When I hear that no, I chuckle a little bit. I don't like to hear that. And I've gotten some no's. People have booked Frank Sinatra impersonators. What? I didn't get the job, but a Frank Sinatra impersonator got the job. Magicians. I mean, there's all kind of belly dancers that got a job. I didn't. I was like, hey man, I can do the little belly. I can shake the belly roll. Come on, man. Give me a chance. I can wear the bow tie and the belly roll. Let's do the. I don't think I lost to a belly dancer. That's how jokes work, people. That's another joke. But no, that has been the best advice ever segment. So today I want to introduce a new segment called The Worst Advice Ever. We know this is the best advice ever podcast, but in life, we don't always get the best advice. Sometimes we get some trash advice. So I want to share with you. I've gotten so many, but this is one of the worst bit of advice I've ever heard. So let's think back to a younger Michael Goodwin. This is a Michael Goodwin that is a senior in high school. I'm the oldest of three. And I had applied to one college my senior year. I applied to the mighty South Carolina State Bulldogs, the mighty University of South Carolina State. That's the only college I applied to my senior year, and I was accepted. There was some concern for me, because I'm the oldest of three, how we would be able to afford it. I'm from a probably lower middle class family. I had a younger brother and a younger sister, working class parents. So I don't think there was a college fund off to the side. There was no money saved up. And I wasn't a good student. So I had no grants, no scholarships. Well, I did win a scholarship, but it was like $500. And they didn't give me my scholarship because I guess I didn't go to college. But like, we're not going to give you a scholarship if you don't go to college. So I never got that money. But I went to college later, and they still didn't send that money. But at this time of my life, I was really concerned about how to pay for college. I didn't want my parents to have that burden of doing it. And so I started looking at options. I started looking at how can I afford to pay for college, because what I didn't want to do was go to college for one semester and then get a bill or get some type of information that, hey, you don't have enough money to continue. I just thought that that was a real thing. I'd seen that happen with folks before that were kind of from my area. They went to school and they spent a year at school, and then they didn't have the money to continue, so they had to go get a job. And then once they got a job, they ended up getting a girlfriend. The girlfriend got pregnant, and then they never made it back to college. So I knew that I didn't want to go to college, come home for a semester work, go to college, come home for a semester work. And then I wanted to go to college and have amenities. I wanted to get haircuts. I wanted to maybe go to a movie, go out on a date. Like, I wanted to have an adult experience in college. I wanted to have some gear, possibly buy some Curb colognes, because that's the only cologne that people were wearing back then. Curb and Cool Water. Those were the two most popular choices in my time frame. So I wanted those amenities, right? So I knew that financially I needed to have money. I needed bread. So I started looking at military options. I looked at the Marines, and I was really thinking about the Marines. But at the time, I talked to the Army recruiter, and the Army at this moment had something called the GI Bill, the Montgomery College Fund. And it was where if you put $1,200 into, you gave $100 a month for a year, you paid that into your account. You either got $20,000 if you served for 2 years, 25,000 for 3, or 30,000 for 4, and that's the money that you would get in return to pay to go to college. And this is in, I started college in 1997, but this was 93 when I was having conversations about it. So I was like, okay, if I can get $30,000, that would cover the cost of college. Unlike today, where $30,000 would cover a year. Like, that's how much times have changed. So I was really seriously having conversations with recruiters. I went and took the ASVAB, talking to the recruiters, and I'm kind of communicating with my family members that, hey, I think this Army is the direction I want to go. But I'm not really sure, because I had the reserves. I was thinking I could do the reserves and then maybe, get that money and pay and continue to work and be in school. But I didn't want to go to college and work all the time. I didn't want to be in class and be at work. I didn't want to be one of those folks. I wanted to go to college and experience the full college experience. I wanted to live on the dorms. I wanted to eat in the caf. I wanted to join the frats. Like, I wanted to do all the things, right? So I'm in a dilemma. I'm looking at my options. One of the options was go to school with questionable money and stay a semester and come back home and work in Camden, or join the reserves and kind of work piecemeal the money together, or go in full time into the military, get the money, then go to college. So that's kind of I had those options, but I hadn't made a decision. I was just kind of in that place. So this is where the worst advice starts. I'm sitting at home. It's a Saturday afternoon. It's midday, like 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm sitting in our living room watching something frivolous on television, maybe golf. I'm just at the house. Really didn't have anything. I don't think I had to work that particular day. So I'm just at the crib. So my dad comes in. Now, my dad didn't go to college. My mom didn't go to college. My dad pops in with my uncle, who at the time I did not know went to college. So my dad comes into the house with my uncle, and they kind of got this kind of grin, this smile, like, oh, we about to drop the mother load on my man. We about to tell him about this college money that we've been saving up. Nobody said anything about it. We got this money. We got this little hoop that we're gonna be able to give you. You can go back and forth to school. It's gonna be all good. So my dad came in with that kind of look, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that these things were available. So my dad told me to turn off the TV. Your uncle got something to tell you about college. I'm like, okay, here we go. This is the money conversation. This is what I've been waiting for all my days. South Carolina State, here I come, baby. So my dad tells me, turn off TV and have a seat. Your uncle gonna tell you why you need to go to college. I'm like, yes, sir. So I sit down. My dad, he got this grin, like, man, he has this this aura as if, hey man, this is the we pulling out the big joker. Like, I'm gonna drop the big joker. I'm gonna drop the mic. Game over. So my uncle's name is Uncle Checky. Uncle Checky. I didn't realize that time, but Uncle Checky went to South Carolina State himself. He didn't graduate. He had about a semester left from college. So my dad comes in and says, hey, Uncle Checky gonna tell you why you need to go to college. You know, he went to college down there in Orangeburg. Where you looking at going? So he kind of looks at my uncle. He said, hey, tell the boy why he need to go to college. My uncle steps up. Say, you need to go to college because girls are there. Say what? Girls. I joined the Army Monday morning, people. What? You need to go to college because girls are there? That's not good advice. Matter of fact, that's the worst advice ever, to tell somebody why they need to go to college. Girls. Mind you, at this time, Mike Goodwin had 0 girls. The girls in my neighborhood didn't like me. So how I'm going to show up broke at Orangeburg, no haircut, bottle cap glasses, throw me down clothes, and look at all the ladies. I'm single, ready to mingle, ladies. I wish this was not my life. I wish this was something that I thought of, I made up. Girls is the reason why. And I went, that solidified my decision. I served 4 years in the United States Army and got $30,000 to pay for my college. But shout out to my dad, my Uncle Checky. Man, I'm telling you would have thought if they were like GMs on a team and I was a player looking to go into free agency and be like, hey man, we signing LeBron James. Like, they had that type of energy. They had that, we got LeBron James coming on board energy. Girls, bro. That's my uncle told me. The absolute worst advice ever. Hey, man, thank y'all so much for tuning in on this episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. If you want to send in a question, you can email us at info@comedianmikegoodwin.com. That's the Ask the Bowtie question. That's a segment that we'll have in there. Also, follow me on social media, on YouTube. We'll post a video. You can find the podcast wherever podcasts are available. It took a second for Apple, man. We had some issues with Apple Podcasts, but we good to go now. So we're all the places. We're out there on Beyonce's internet. So wherever you find your podcast, you can find the Best Advice Ever podcast. Also, check me out on my social media. I'm at Comedian Mike Goodwin on Facebook, on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at Bowtie Comedy. Thank you again for checking in to the podcast. We appreciate you. We'd love for you to subscribe, follow, do all the things. And we drop a new episode every week. Every Wednesday, you will have an episode waiting for you of the best podcast ever with comedian Mike Goodwin. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Peace.